It is an honor to represent Zscaler's product and engineering team who work so hard behind the scene to make us successful and our customers successful. In the last 6 months, data protection team delivered 70+ new features. The speed of innovation in this company never stops. It's just amazing. The features that we have delivered solves a lot of real customers' problem. Now, if you look at this list of features, these features are, at the end of the day, means to an end. So the real question is, what is our purpose? What is it that we are trying to achieve? We want to protect our customers from all kinds of data breaches by delivering a very comprehensive, fully integrated data security solution with the least amount of complexity. For our customers, we want to answer 4 basic questions. Where is my data? Can I classify them? Who has access to my data? And can I enforce consistent security policy? And of course, we want to do this with simplicity. So now, we have been in this journey for the last 8 years. Over the last 8 years, we delivered a very sophisticated data classification engine with hundreds of predefined dictionaries, file types, very flexible custom regular expression engine. With the advanced data classification side, we delivered exact data match, IDM, document fingerprinting, OCR. We integrated our data protection solution with Microsoft AIP and MIP. We took that stack and started monitoring your web traffic. Essentially, we delivered WebDLP. Then we took the same stack, and we integrated that stack with our multi-mode CASB. CASB in forward proxy mode, with out-of-band API, with browser isolation. The same engine was leveraged to protect your data in private applications through ZPA connection. We utilize the same engine to protect your data in public cloud infrastructure, endpoint, and for your corporate email. So as you can see, we had quite a bit of journey over the last 8 years. In the next few minutes, I would like to focus on some of the new innovations and features that we have rolled out. So the first one I want to talk about is AI ML-powered auto data classification and enforcement. Very recently, we released our auto data classification behind the scene. We used a lot of very sophisticated ML algorithms. We used things like stemming, lemmatization, grouping of words. We use NLP, natural language processing. But essentially, what we did is, whatever data that we have seen on the wire, we have put that data into different thematic document categories without you creating a single DLP policy. Now, with the latest release, all these document classification is now extended for policy enforcement. So you can build a very powerful DLP classification engine by combining these document categories with your predefined dictionaries and custom dictionaries. And then, of course, you can take that engine and start enforcing policies within DLP. Now, when you enforce these policies, of course, you want to coach your users, you want to notify your users. In the past, the notification options were browser, Slack connector, Teams connector, and email. But now with the latest release, our client connector can do the notification and coaching. As you know, the client connector is installed on 50 million endpoints. Every time we see a DLP violation, client connector will pop up a message, and it will start notifying the user. User can justify their transaction. So that's pretty cool. What about admin users? we made the DLP and CASB incident management very easy for the admin users with Zscaler's workflow automation. Every single incident has a unique incident ID. On the front end, you are going to see all kinds of metadata. At the same time, on the front end, we are showing you the triggered data. And we are giving you the exact link where we are storing your entire payload in your own cloud environments like an S3 bucket. All right. So now, when you see all these violations, you, of course, want to take actions. There are a lot of actions available, and one of the actions is escalation. So you can take an incident, and you can escalate it to people manager, perhaps VPs of the BU. You can escalate this incident to even your HR. Essentially, we enabled you to engage other key stakeholders in your organization so everyone participates in data security program. Okay, next topic, very popular nowadays, generative AI and data protection. Yesterday, in the keynote, Sanjay talked about some of the cool technologies that we are currently working on. Soon, these technologies like multimodal DLP will be released. But today, I'm going to demonstrate some of the capabilities that we have built that you can leverage right now. So the first one is cloud app control. As you know, we support about 40,000 cloud applications with very granular control. The idea is, I don't want to be a sledgehammer. I want to enable users to use these applications, but I want to enforce granular policy. So in the latest release, we are now supporting applications like ChatGPT and other AI, generative AI application. So with that support, you can be very granular. Instead of blocking the app, you can select the app in Cloud App Control Policy, and you can caution the user. You can allow the user with notification. Of course, you can flat out block this application, but also you can put that entire session under browser isolation. Better yet, you can make these policies even more granular if you bring the DLP engine. So in this particular case, I'm saying developers in my company cannot upload source code to ChatGPT. So this is how you enforce a very granular policy to empower your users. The next topic, data protection for BYOD and unmanaged asset. It's a very complex problem. There is no footprint on the device. These are unmanaged assets connecting to your SaaS platforms directly over the internet. Now, in the past, we solved that problem with isolation proxy. We combined our SAML proxy with browser isolation, and then whenever users were accessing those SaaS applications, we would put them in browser isolation. Now, that feature required some application settings change. You would change the IDP settings. In some organizations, identity team don't like to change that settings. So with the latest release, we actually made it better. So today, from our app portal, we can host both SaaS-based application and your private application. When the user clicks on the SaaS-based application, we basically taking the user through forward proxy, and we are putting the entire session into a browser-isolated session. And then when the session is within browser isolation, you can enforce very granular policy. You can say, cut and paste is not allowed. Upload and download is not allowed. You can say, printing is not allowed. And more interestingly, you can actually put the session you can actually put a watermark on that web browser session so that your users cannot take a screenshot and exfiltrate that data. And then last but not least, of course, you can make that browser isolation session even more granular if you bring the DLP engine. So in this case, you are saying download is allowed, but PII download is not allowed. All right, next topic, endpoint DLP. First of all, we are not introducing another agent in the company. We are leveraging the same agent that you are using for ZIA, ZPA, and ZDX. So when our endpoint DLP module gets installed, it will fetch the configuration from the cloud. It will look at all the DLP dictionaries and engines that you have built, and it will start scanning the data on the endpoint, which is essentially data at rest. So as we are scanning, we know which data is sensitive, which data is not sensitive, and we maintain a local copy on the endpoint. And then our policy gets enforced at the time of data in transition. In other words, if the users were to copy these sensitive files to a removable disk, to a USB stick, perhaps uploading that file to network share or to the local printer, or even there is a sync client downloaded on the machine, for all of those channels, we are going to be able to enforce a block policy. We have built a new dashboard for endpoint DLP as well, so you can track all the violations based on severity, based on actions, and based on different channels. The next topic, email DLP. In the past, we protected your data on Corporate Exchange and Gmail with our out-of-band API CASB. We were monitoring all your outbound emails, and we were looking at the subject line, email body, and attachments, and anytime we saw a violation, we sent an alert. With the latest release now, we can protect your Corporate Exchange and Gmail inline at real time. We are cracking open MAPI over HTTPS traffic. We are cracking open OWA. We are inspecting the content. And more importantly, we are parsing all the receivers and senders so that you can build a very granular email policy based on specific users and specific domains. Next topic, SaaS supply chain security, AppTotal. This is the latest addition in the portfolio. As you are embracing more and more SaaS platforms, applications like Office 365, Google, Atlassian Suite, Okta, Slack, your users are connecting hundreds of third-party apps and browser extensions to these SaaS applications. These applications are connecting over OAuth token and API connection. There's a lot of communications happening SaaS to SaaS, putting your data at risk, and you have no visibility. With AppTotal, within minutes, we are going to be able to identify and discover all of those applications. We are going to be able to tell you which ones are good, which ones are bad. We will also tell you which applications are dormant. Users connected those applications, but never used them. The tool has a prioritization process. It is not going to overwhelm you with hundreds of alerts, but it will tell you which high priority alerts that you should double click on. So in this environment, we found an application, a user connected called OneDrive Free Client. Now, when users connect this application, automatically this application has access, read-only access, to all the files and folders. When we did some research on this application, we found out this app is an open source app. When you click on the evidence link, it will show you that this is an open source app because you can find the source code in a publicly available Git repo. Now, when we further research on this app, we found out that this application is leaking secrets. Once again, when you click on the evidence link and you look at the source code, you will see that client ID and secrets are hard-coded. And that's pretty messed up because if I'm a bad guy, I can build my own application, I can use the same client ID and client secret, and then I can connect directly to your corporate OneDrive, and I can get read-only access to all your files and folders. Okay, so when you see this type of violations, what do you want to do? You can inject yourselves in the vetting process. You can send a user notification via Slack or email. You can ask the user, why are you connecting this type of applications? You can be a sledgehammer. You can actually take a hard action. You can disconnect the app by revoking the token, and then now the application is completely disconnected. Thank you. All right. I spend a lot of time talking about data security for web, data security for SaaS and CASB, endpoint, and email. What about my data in the public cloud infrastructure? Perhaps I have petabytes of data sitting in S3 bucket, VMs and containers in my data lake. And that's when our CNAPP and data security solution comes together to deliver a very powerful solution. So in the past, we delivered CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management, to identify your cloud misconfigurations and compliance violations. We supported AWS, Azure, and GCP. In the latest release, we are now supporting Oracle Cloud. For CSPM, we are now supporting Kubernetes, which is our new KSPM module. We have also delivered CIEM, Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management. Essentially, we are looking at human identities, non-human identities. We are looking at permissions and excessive permissions. We also delivered vulnerability scanning. We are scanning your infrastructure, operating systems, as well as images. Now, all of these modules, all these checks and balances are available for both build time and runtime. And what that really means is we are supporting shift-left security, we are supporting infrastructure as a code. In other words, you can take all of those signatures that we have built and you can integrate them into your CI/CD pipeline. If you are using CI/CD tools like CloudFormation templates, Jenkins, GitHub, GitLab, all of those tools can integrate our CSPM, CIEM, and vulnerability scanning. Now, with the latest release, we are double-clicking on your data. So what we have done is we are now scanning your sensitive data, your unstructured data on VMs and containers with our same DLP classification engine. We take, let's say you are running an application on an EC2. We will take a snapshot. We will dump that snapshot into another EC2 instance in your environment where we are running our local DLP scanner, and we will immediately identify if you have sensitive PCI, PII, PHI-related data. At the same time, we are scanning your S3 bucket, Azure Blob, and GCP storage with the same DLP policy. Again, looking for sensitive data, looking for sensitive unstructured data. Now, all these individual modules are great, but when you bring them together, that makes it very powerful, and that's exactly what we are doing with our cloud threats and correlated threats. We are bringing intelligence from CSPM, CIEM, vulnerability scanning, and data security, and we are joining all these data sources together so that when we generate an alert, it is super, super powerful. For example, we will tell you, you have an EC2 instance which has an outside-in connection. In the same EC2 instance, you are storing your PII data, and then the same EC2 instance is vulnerable. And that is powerful because we are giving you actionable insights. All right, so I talked about a lot of new features, talked a lot about new innovations. What's next? What do we do with this information? For the last 25 years, all of us have done data security with the lens of incident and compliance. With the world of cloud and mobility, we need to start thinking differently. We have to start thinking about business-driven data security. We need to enable our businesses, our users, so that they can directly contribute to the top line and bottom line. Last week, I was in Washington, D.C. in Gartner conference, and I met one of the analysts, and he used an analogy that resonated very well with me. So here's the scenario that he laid out. He said, a tourist from Midwest goes to New York City for the first time. He's super excited. He's in Times Square. He's eating street food. He's doing a lot of shopping. He's taking a lot of pictures. And boom, he crashes. He falls down. He has a massive heart attack. People call 911. Ambulance show up. paramedics jump in, and right at that time, the paramedics, the only thing they know about this patient is his first name, his last name, his address, and his date of birth, and nothing else. They actually need a lot more information just for that moment to revive this patient. They take the patient to a hospital in New York City. The same situation for oncologists, even for doctors. They don't have all the data they need right there and then to save that patient. And that is business-driven data security is all about. We all know PHI data is sensitive. It needs to be protected. But at the same time, it needs to be accessible for the right people at the right time. And we are here to help you with that journey. If you want to implement a stringent policy, focus on incident and compliance, of course we support that. But you need to think about collaboration. Perhaps blocking all data going to the cloud application is not a good idea. But if your users are uploading Office documents to pdfconverter.com, that's a good use case for blocking. Collaboration, it's a good thing, but the collaboration needs to be allowed with the trusted partners. If you want to encrypt your PHI data, if you want to mask your credit card information, do that, but not necessarily at all times. When you are looking at an S3 bucket, of course, we are all looking for open S3 bucket, but try to understand what's in it and who has access to that data. Same thing for the endpoint. Blocking USB is not going to work. Users will find a way. Perhaps selective blocking is what we need to think about, because then your employees feel empowered. They feel that they are part of the decision-making process.